Gia woke to the sound of emergency alarms blaring through the escape pod. The young Silarian girl's violet eyes fluttered open as her vessel plummeted through the atmosphere of Pharos 9. Her science vessel had been attacked without warning, and in the chaos, she'd been separated from the crew. The pod crashed with a sickening crunch into the dense jungle. Bruised but alive, Gia pushed open the hatch and stepped onto the hostile world. Towering vegetation surrounded her, and strange calls echoed from the undergrowth. This planet was a biological research station, home to countless engineered predators. "Hello, is anyone receiving this?" she called into her communicator. Static answered her. The display showed the nearest Silarian ship was weeks away. Gia's shoulders slumped as reality set in. Her telepathic abilities might help her communicate with simpler life forms, but they would be little defense against the planet's apex predators. As darkness fell, she found an abandoned research outpost and sealed herself inside. Examining the meager supplies, Gia calculated they would last 2 weeks at most. She curled up in a corner, her silver skin reflecting the dim emergency lights, and tried not to think about what lurked outside. The outpost walls shook as something large moved past outside. Gia held her breath. Her people were not made for places like this. Silarians were known across the galaxy for their peaceful ways and brilliant minds, not survival skills. She checked her escape pod's locator beacon again. It was working, but the signal was weak. Someone would come eventually, if she could stay alive long enough. Morning came with strange bird-like calls and blue sunlight filtering through dirty windows. Gia explored the outpost more carefully. She found old research logs and skimmed through them. The words, "highly aggressive specimens" and "enhanced predatory response" made her stomach turn. The logs showed pictures of creatures with too many teeth and claws that looked sharp enough to cut metal. Scientists had made these things on purpose. Humans had created them as weapons. Now Gia was trapped among them. "Think, Gia," she whispered to herself. "You are not helpless." She took stock of what she had. Some emergency rations, a broken communicator, her small medical kit, and her wits. She was also a level 3 telepath, not the strongest among her people, but skilled enough to sense emotions and send simple messages to receptive minds. On the second day, Gia tried to improve the beacon signal by placing it on the roof. She opened the hatch carefully and climbed out. The air smelled rich and alive, but with a strange chemical undertone. From this height, she could see the jungle stretching for miles. Beautiful but deadly. A movement caught her eye. Something large was moving through the trees about half a mile away. Then another shape and another. They were coming toward the outpost. Gia hurried back inside and sealed the hatch. Through a window, she watched as 3 cat-like creatures, with scaled skin and double-jointed legs, prowled into the clearing. Their heads swung back and forth, searching, smelling, hunting. Gia reached out with her mind, trying to sense them. Most animals had simple thoughts that she could read. These creatures felt wrong. Their minds were a jumble of rage and hunger with little else. She could feel their purpose, though. They were looking for her. One creature approached the outpost door and scratched at it. The metal groaned, but held. The creature let out a sound between a growl and a hiss. Gia backed away from the window. For 3 days, the creatures circled the outpost. Gia rationed her food and tried to stay quiet. On the 4th day, they finally left. She breathed a sigh of relief, but knew they might return. The days passed slowly. Gia read through the research logs and learned more about Pharos 9. It was supposed to be a place to study wildlife, but military funding had turned it into something else. The scientists had created new species by mixing DNA from across the galaxy. Then they had tested these creatures' hunting abilities. The logs ended abruptly, with notes about containment failure. On the 10th day, the water recycler broke down. Gia tried to fix it, but she needed parts. She would have to venture outside to find water soon. That night, a storm hit the jungle. Rain hammered against the outpost. Lightning flashed, showing glimpses of swaying trees and strange shapes moving in the darkness. Thunder boomed so loud that Gia covered her ears. In the morning, she found that the storm had damaged part of the outpost wall. She could no longer stay here safely. With 4 days of food left, Jia packed a small bag. She would need to find better shelter, water, and possibly a way to send a stronger distress signal. As Jia stepped out into the alien jungle, she didn't know that someone was already watching her from the trees. Someone who had survived in this deadly place far longer than anyone thought possible. 14 days later, Jia ventured from the outpost, desperate for supplies. Her people were not built for survival, with their slight frames and peaceful nature. Silarians were diplomats and scholars, not fighters. A rustle in the underbrush froze her in place. 6 slicers emerged, wolf-like creatures with metallic exoskeletons that gleamed wickedly in the sunlight. Jia backed away slowly, reaching out with her mind to project calming thoughts. The lead slicer snarled, immune to her telepathy. These weren't natural animals, they were weapons. Jia turned and ran, her heart hammering. She crashed through dense foliage until the ground suddenly disappeared beneath her feet. Tumbling down a ravine, she landed hard in a clearing and found herself facing something far worse than slicers. From the dense canopy above, Dojun watched the scene unfold. The human military scientist had gone AWOL months ago, refusing to participate in the unethical experiments his superiors demanded. Something about the silver-skinned alien girl intrigued him, particularly the way she attempted to use some kind of mental communication with the predators. The creature facing Jia stood 10 feet tall. It had 6 legs and skin like black stone. 2 heads swayed on long necks, each with 3 glowing yellow eyes. It was a titan, the most dangerous creation on Pharos 9. Jia tried to stand, but pain shot through her ankle. She was trapped. The titan's heads lowered, studying her with cold interest. She tried to reach its mind, but found only a wall of aggressive programming. Dojun shifted his position in the tree. He hadn't seen another person in months, let alone an alien. He should stay hidden. Getting involved was dangerous. But something about the girl's desperate situation pulled at him. The titan opened both mouths, revealing rows of needle-like teeth. Jia pressed her back against the ravine wall. She had no weapons, no hope of outrunning it. The silver markings on her face, signs of her family line, glowed faintly with fear. Dojun made his decision. He pulled a small device from his pocket and threw it past the titan. It landed with a soft beep and emitted a high-pitched sound. The titan spun toward the noise, both heads alert. While it was distracted, Dojun slid down a vine to the forest floor. He moved silently, years of training evident in every step. He reached Jia and pressed a finger to his lips. "Don't move," he whispered. His voice was rough from lack of use. The titan was investigating the device, poking it with a clawed foot. Dojun slowly helped Jia up. Her skin felt cool to the touch, almost metallic. Her eyes widened at the sight of him, a human, the creators of this nightmare world. "Trust me or die," Dojun said simply. Jia nodded. She had no choice. Dojun pointed to a narrow gap between 2 boulders. They began moving toward it, one slow, step at a time. The titan was still focused on the device, which continued to emit its distracting signal. They were halfway to the gap when the device went silent. The titan's head swung back toward them. It let out a bone-shaking roar that echoed through the clearing. "Run!" Dojun shouted, pulling Jia toward the gap. They squeezed through just as the titan charged. Its massive body slammed into the rocks, unable to follow. One head snaked through the gap, snapping at them. Dojun pulled a knife from his belt and slashed at the creature's eyes. It pulled back with a shriek of pain. "This way," Dojun said, helping Jia through a narrow tunnel between the rocks. "It can't follow us here." The tunnel opened into a small valley. Jia limped beside Dojun, stealing glances at the human. He was tall and lean, with short black hair and eyes that missed nothing. He wore a tattered uniform with patches removed. Scars covered his arms, telling stories of survival on this deadly planet. "Why did you help me?" Jia asked finally. Dojun kept walking. "I've seen enough death." They reached a stream, and Dojun knelt to fill a container with water. "Who are you? How did you get here?" Jia explained about the attack on her science vessel and the escape pod. Dojun listened silently, his face giving away nothing. "The military will come looking for you," he said. "My people will come first," Jia replied. Dojun laughed, a harsh sound. No one comes to Pharos 9 willingly. This planet is classified, top secret. Then why are you here? Gia asked. A shadow crossed Dojun's face. I was part of the team that created those monsters. Gia stepped back, fear returning. You made them. I was their keeper, Dojun said, until I learned the truth about what my commanders planned to do with them. He stood, scanning the tree line. The slicers will be tracking us. We need to move. I don't understand, Gia said. If you helped make these creatures, why would they hunt you? Because I destroyed the control center, Dojun replied. I released them all rather than let them be shipped off as weapons. Now they hunt anything. That moves. He looked at her injured ankle. Can you walk further? Gia nodded, though pain flared with each step. My camp is 2 miles from here, Dojun said. If we make it there, you might survive another day on Pharos 9. He offered his hand to help her over a fallen log. Gia hesitated, then took it. The human was dangerous, perhaps as dangerous as the creatures he'd helped create. But right now, he was her only hope of survival. The creature lunged at Gia. She closed her eyes, bracing for the end, but instead heard a sharp whistle followed by a thud. When she looked up, the predator lay motionless, and a tall figure stood before her. Can. You walk? The human male extended a hand, his weathered face unreadable. Gia shrank back. Human, stay away. Her people had only stories of humans, violent conquerors who bent nature to their will. Dojun sighed. Look, those slicers are regrouping. I've got shelter. Your choice. At his well-fortified camp, tension hung thick in the air. Dojun cleaned his weapons while Gia observed from a distance. His movements were efficient, practiced, terrifying. Why help me? She finally asked. Not everyone fits the stories you've heard, he replied simply. During a violent storm that night, when their shelter began to collapse, they worked side by side to reinforce it. Something shifted between them. The first fragile threads of trust taking root. Dojun's camp was hidden beneath the massive roots of an ancient tree. He had dug into the earth and reinforced the walls with metal panels salvaged from crashed ships. A small stream ran nearby, and he had set traps all around the perimeter. Gia sat as far from Dojun as possible, watching him clean a strange gun. Her ankle throbbed, but her fear was stronger than her pain. Your leg needs treatment, Dojun said without looking up. I can heal myself, Gia replied. Silarians recovered faster than humans, but she was weak from hunger and stress. Dojun tossed her a small container. Eat, it's not poison. Inside was dried meat and some kind of fruit. Gia sniffed it carefully before taking a small bite. It tasted better than the emergency rations she'd been surviving on. How long have you been here? She asked. 342 days, Dojun answered immediately. He had been counting. Rain began to fall outside, heavy drops that quickly became a downpour. The sound on the roof of the shelter was almost deafening. My people say humans destroy everything they touch, Gia said, watching for his reaction. Dojun continued working on his weapon. Sometimes we do. Then why did you help me? Because I'm tired of watching death, he said, even alien death. Lightning flashed, illuminating the small space. In that brief moment, Gia saw something in Dojun's eyes, not the cold calculation of a killer, but a deep weariness. The creatures on this planet, Gia said. You helped make them. Dojun nodded. I was the head animal keeper. My job was to train them, learn their behaviors. For what purpose? They told us it was for defense, he said. Then I found the real orders, weapons for attacking other worlds. Your world was on the list. Gia's. Silver skin paled further. Solaria, but we pose no threat to humans. You have resources, Dojun said simply. That's enough reason for some humans. A loud crack sounded above them, and part of the ceiling gave way. Rain poured in, soaking their supplies. Dojun jumped up. We need to fix this now, or the whole place will flood. He grabbed a metal panel and tried to position it over the hole, but it was too heavy for one person. Water streamed down his face as he struggled. Gia hesitated, then stood. Her ankle protested, but she ignored it and moved to help him. Together they lifted the panel into place. Dojun quickly secured it with some kind of fast-drying seal. Hold this, he ordered, handing her a support beam while he attached another panel. They worked side by side for an hour, reinforcing the weakened structure. The storm raged outside, but their shelter held. When they finished, both were soaked and exhausted. Dojun started a small heating unit that slowly warmed the space. "You're good with your hands," he said, offering her a dry blanket. "For a diplomat." "How did you know I was a diplomat?" Jia asked, surprised. "The markings on your face," Dojun said. "I studied your people before—" He stopped himself. "Before you were ordered to help destroy us," Jia finished. Dojun nodded. "I'm sorry." The simple apology surprised her. "But you refused," she said. "You left your post." "Too late," he replied. "The project continued without me. That's why I destroyed the control center and released the creatures. To buy time." Jia wrapped the blanket around her shoulders. "Did you send a warning to my people?" "I tried," Dojun said. "I don't know if it reached them." They sat in silence as the storm continued. Jia studied the human with new eyes. He was not what she had expected. "Can you really communicate with animals?" Dojun asked suddenly. "I saw you trying with the slicers." "Yes," Jia said. "All Silarians are telepathic to some degree. I can reach simple minds, feel emotions, send calming thoughts." "But it didn't work on the creatures here," Jia shook her head. "Their minds are wrong, twisted, full of anger." "They were designed that way," Dojun said softly. "I'm sorry." Another crack of thunder shook the shelter. A small section of the roof began to leak again. Without being asked, Jia moved to help. Fix it. This time they worked together smoothly, anticipating each other's movements. When they finished, Dojun offered her a ration bar. "These taste terrible, but they'll keep you alive." Jia took it with a small smile. "Thank you." Something had changed between them. Not friendship, not yet, but a fragile understanding had taken root. "We should rest," Dojun said. "Tomorrow I'll teach you how to avoid the slicers. Their vision is movement-based." "I could teach you about Silarian healing techniques," Jia offered. "For wounds." Dojun nodded. "I'd like that." As they settled down to sleep, with the storm still raging outside, Jia realized she no longer feared the human quite so much. Dojun was dangerous, yes, but not to her. Tomorrow would bring new challenges on this deadly planet. But for the first time since her crash landing, Jia felt something she had almost forgotten. Hope. The distant hum of engines drew their attention skyward. A Galactic Coalition patrol ship entered orbit, but Dojun's expression darkened. "That's not rescue," he said grimly. "That's Commander Hugh. He wants to restart the bioweapon program." "And eliminate witnesses," Jia added, sensing his thoughts. Hunter-killer. Drones soon filled the sky, methodically searching the jungle. During their nights hiding from thermal scanners, Dojun taught Jia survival tactics, while she helped enhance his traps with her telepathic abilities. In an abandoned laboratory they discovered together, Jia found files proving the predator. Species were engineered using combined human and alien DNA. "They're creating biological weapons to use against both our peoples," she whispered in horror. Dojun's face hardened. "Then both our peoples need to know." 3 weeks had passed since Jia crashed on Pharos 9. In that time, she had learned to move silently through the jungle, to track the dangerous creatures, and even to set traps. Dojun was a good teacher, patient but firm. They had developed a routine and a wary trust. That morning, they were gathering edible plants when they heard it, the unmistakable sound of a ship entering the atmosphere. Jia's heart leaped. Rescue! But Dojun pulled her into the shadow of a large tree. "No, look at the markings." The ship that passed overhead bore the emblem of the Galactic Coalition Military Division, Dojun's former employers. "How do you know it's Commander Hayuk?" Jia asked. "That's his personal shuttle," Dojun said. "I would recognize it anywhere." His face was grim. "We need to move. Now." They returned to their camp and gathered only essential supplies. Dojun disabled all his traps and carefully removed any sign of their presence. "Where are we going?" Jia asked. "Deeper into the restricted zone," Dojun replied. "It's the last place they'll look." They had just left when they heard the first drones, small flying machines with scanning equipment and weapons. They moved, in a grid pattern, searching methodically. "They're looking for heat signatures," Dojun explained as they hid under a fallen tree. Human and Solarian body temperatures will stand out from the jungle. Can they find us here? Not yet. The rotting wood masks our heat, but we can't stay long. That night, they could see the lights of more ships arriving. The coalition was bringing in serious equipment. Why would they put so much effort into finding just 2 people? Jia asked. Dojun's face was hard in the dim light. Because Hayek doesn't just want to restart the program. He needs to make sure no one ever learns what happened here, what they created. They moved only at night after that, staying hidden during the day. Dojun taught Jaya how to cover her tracks, how to find water without leaving a trail, how to stay downwind of the predators. In turn, Jaya showed him how to use his mind to sense danger before it arrived. Humans had latent telepathic abilities, weak, but present. With practice, Dojun learned to feel the presence of nearby creatures. They're surrounding us, he said one evening, his newly developed sense picking up multiple threats. Jia closed her eyes, reaching out. Yes, slices to the north and east, something bigger to the south. The only way is west then, Dojun said. Toward the old main lab. Is that safe? No, but nowhere is safe now. The main laboratory was a massive structure, half buried in the jungle. Vines covered broken windows, and trees had grown through parts of the roof. But the security doors were still intact. I have codes, Dojun said. They might still work. The door opened with a groan of protest. Inside was darkness and the smell of decay. They moved carefully through empty corridors, their flashlights creating ghostly shadows. What are we looking for? Jia asked. Evidence, Dojun replied. Proof of what they did here. They found it in the central database. Though the power was long gone, Dojun had brought portable batteries. He connected one to a terminal and the screen flickered to life. Help me search, he said. Look for files on Project Genesis. Jia moved to another terminal. Her fingers flew over the unfamiliar human keyboard as she searched. Her people's natural affinity for technology made it easy to navigate the system. Dojun, she called, her voice tight. I found something. The files were detailed and damning. Project Genesis wasn't just about creating new predator species. It was about targeting specific alien races. The creatures were designed with genetic weaknesses that matched the strengths of their intended victims. The Solarian specimens are telepathically resistant, Jia read aloud, specifically engineered to counter telepathic influence and to target silver-skinned humanoids. Dojun moved to her side, his face pale in the blue light of the screen. There's more, he said. Look at the DNA sources. The horrifying truth unfolded before them. The predators weren't just weapons. They were made from combined DNA of both humans and the very alien races they were meant to attack. They used Solarian DNA to create weapons against Solarians, Jia whispered, and human DNA for weapons against humans. So each race would be vulnerable to creatures that carried part of their own genetic code, Dojun said. But why target humans too? Jaya scrolled through more files. Because the coalition isn't run by all humans, she said. It's controlled by the Inner Circle, a group that believes in their own genetic superiority. They want to rule everyone, other humans included. A noise from a distant corridor made them both freeze. Footsteps, multiple sets. They've found us, Dojun whispered. Jia quickly removed a small data chip from her pocket. Standard Solarian. Technology that she had carried since the crash. She inserted it into the terminal and began copying files. What are you doing? Dojun asked. Getting proof, Jia replied. For both our peoples. The footsteps grew closer. Dojun drew his weapon and positioned himself near the door. How much longer? He asked. Almost done, Jia said, her fingers dancing across the keyboard. There, I have it all. She pulled the chip free just as the first armored soldier appeared. In the doorway, Dojun fired and the man fell back. This way, Dojun shouted, grabbing Jia's hand. They ran toward the emergency exit, bullets flying around them. Outside, the jungle was alive with noise, drones buzzing overhead, soldiers shouting to each other. But they had what they needed now. Evidence of a conspiracy that threatened both their worlds. What do we do now? Jia asked as they hid in a dense thicket. Dojun looked at the chip in her hand. Now, he said, we make sure everyone knows the truth, no matter what happens to us. Commander Hayek's forces surrounded their hideout at dawn. In the chaotic firefight, Dojun was hit protecting Jia from a flanking attack. "Go!" he urged through gritted teeth. "Get the data to your people." Instead, Jia closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, farther than she ever had before. The jungle fell silent momentarily before erupting with sound as dozens of predators converged on the coalition forces. With the soldiers distracted, Jia infiltrated their shuttle for medical supplies. While aboard, she transmitted Dojun's research data to both human and Silarian authorities, exposing the illegal bioweapon program. When the joint rescue mission arrived days later, humans and Silarians working together for the first time, they found Jia tending to Dojun's wounds in the shelter. "Are you stayed?" Dojun said weakly. Jia smiled. "You showed me what humanity truly is." The Silarian Council, recognizing Dojun's sacrifice, offered him asylum. The human who had once gone AWOL to avoid creating weapons became the first human ambassador to the Silarian homeworld. Together, Jia and Dojun established the Pharos 9 Conservation Initiative, protecting the unique creatures they once feared. Where others had seen only weapons, they found a bridge between worlds. For 3 days, Jia and Dojun hid in a cave deep in the forest. The data chip held their only hope, but Commander Hayek's forces were closing in, using advanced tracking equipment to follow their trail. "We need to split up," Dojun said as they watched coalition soldiers march through the valley below. "No," Jia replied firmly. "We stay together." That night they moved to higher ground. Their plan was simple but dangerous. Reach the emergency communications array on the mountain. From there, they could send the data to both their worlds. Dawn broke with the sound of ships. Dozens of coalition soldiers landed near their hideout, a small shelter they had built between 2 massive boulders. "They found us," Dojun whispered, checking his weapon. "Not enough ammo." Jia touched his arm. "We have other weapons," Dojun understood. Over the past weeks, Jia had been practicing her telepathy on the smaller creatures of Pharos 9. She found that while the engineered predators were resistant, they weren't completely immune. The first shots hit the rocks above them. Dojun fired back, hitting 2 soldiers, but more kept coming. "Cover me," Jia said, sitting cross-legged in the center of the shelter. She closed her eyes and reached out with her mind, farther than she had ever tried before. She sought the wild, angry minds of the predators. Instead of trying to calm them, she did something new. She showed them images of the soldiers, triggering their hunting instincts. The jungle went quiet for a long moment. Then came the sounds, crashing vegetation, growls, roars. The soldiers' confused shouts turned to screams as slicers burst from the trees. Larger predators followed, drawn by the chaos. "Now," Jia said, opening her eyes. While they're distracted, Dojun rose to follow her, but a shot rang out. He fell with a cry of pain, blood spreading across his side. A soldier had flanked their position. Dojun fired back, killing the man, but the damage was done. "I can't move fast enough," he said, pressing a hand to his wound. "Take the chip, go." "I'm not leaving you," Jia insisted. "The data is more important than either of us," Dojun argued. "Go, please." Jia made her decision quickly. "I'll be back," she promised. Using skills Dojun had taught her, she slipped away through the chaos. The predators were keeping most of the soldiers busy, but she still had to dodge patrols as she made her way toward the coalition's command shuttle. The ship was lightly guarded. Most troops had joined the hunt. Jia used her telepathy to distract the remaining guards with false sounds in the jungle. Inside the shuttle, she found a medical kit first. Then she located the communications array. Her hands moved quickly, connecting the data chip and transmitting the files. "All ships in range," she spoke into the transmitter. "This is Jia of Solaria. I am sending proof of illegal genetic experiments on Pharos 9. These files show the Galactic Coalition's bioweapon program violates 23 interstellar treaties." She set the transmission to repeat, then grabbed the medical supplies and returned to Dojun. The fighting had moved deeper into the jungle, leaving their hideout temporarily clear. Dojun was pale but conscious. "You came back," he said weakly. "Of course I did," Jia replied, applying medication to his wound. "The data is sent. Now we survive. For 3 days they hid as coalition forces searched for them. Dojun grew weaker, despite Jia's care. The wound was infected. On the 4th day they heard new ships. Jia prepared to run, but Dojun touched her arm. "Listen," he said. "Those aren't coalition engines." He was right. The sleek silver ships descending through the clouds were Silarian. Alongside them flew vessels with human markings, but not coalition emblems. "The independent human worlds," Dojun said with a smile. They came. The joint rescue mission found them an hour later. Medics from both species worked together to stabilize Dojun. "Your transmission reached both our governments," a Silarian official told Jia. "The evidence was irrefutable. The coalition leadership is being arrested as we speak." 2 weeks later, Dojun stood before the Silarian High Council. Still weak, but healing, he told his story. How he had refused orders, sabotaged the program, and tried to warn others. "This human risked everything to protect people he had never met," Jia testified. "He showed me that humanity's true nature isn't what we feared." The council's decision was unanimous. Dojun would receive asylum and full citizenship if he wished it. "We have much to learn from each other," the head counselor said. 6 months later, Jia and Dojun returned to Pharos 9. This time they brought scientists and conservationists from both worlds. "The creatures here aren't just weapons," Jia explained to the team. "They're living beings created through no fault of their own." The Pharos 9 Conservation Initiative became their life's work. The predators were still dangerous, but under careful study, some proved capable of rehabilitation. Others would remain in protected habitats, living out their lives in peace. On a warm evening, as twin moons rose over the jungle, Jia found Dojun. At their favorite lookout point. "I received a message today," she said. 3 more worlds have signed the treaty. The bioweapon ban is now universal." Dojun smiled. "So it wasn't all for nothing." "Far from it," Jia replied, taking his hand. Her silver skin contrasted with his tan human tone. "We built a bridge between worlds that many thought impossible. Below them, the jungle of Pharos 9 teemed with life, strange and beautiful and dangerous. Once weapons of war, now symbols of Iki, hope. Where others had seen only destruction, Jia and Dojun had found something more powerful, understanding.